What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Brand Altitude version 1.5. And by 1.5, I'm saying that because we're testing out our first setup ever with 3 people. So again, whole thing's automated. We're very excited for it. If it works, great. If not, we're deleting this. So if you've seen this, it worked. So let's go ahead. We're going to introduce. We've got on the show today, we still got Jono here.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Appreciate all the views on the last video. Got a staggering 200 views on YouTube. That was pretty fun, but it's cool to talk to everybody and they're like, hey, we're following along, keep it up. So here we are, progressing the podcast.
And then we wanted to have a fun guest on today for our first official guest, and it's our lead. I don't even know what you would call yourself. You're just the guru of True Mtn, Merrick Westerfield.
Yeah, guys, Merrick here. Pleasure to be on the podcast as the first official guest. You can kind of call me the jack of all trades.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do is bring him on today. We thought it'd be fun. We talk about what we're going to be doing with our clients, but if there's anybody who works with our clients the most, it's pretty much Merrick. So why don't you give him a rundown? Give everybody a rundown. What do you do?
Yeah. So I'm very involved in all aspects at True Mtn. I would say mainly, interacting with clients and developing sites. So I won't do the initial design, but I will develop most of the website, configure all the plugins and kind of just get it to the client's liking. And then I kind of build this relationship with the client. So I have a lot of good relationships with clients, and I do, various changes to their website throughout the entire website's lifespan. So
how many web pages do you think you build a week?
Per week, I mean, man, 20 to 30, but it depends on the week, Busy weeks, I could be building 50 plus. And other weeks, if it's, a little bit slower, maybe 10. But building web pages every single week of various kinds, and it's really enjoyable.
Yeah, so he's kind of like, when it comes to setting up SEO and stuff, like everybody has to kind of do it through Merrick. Like, to give everybody the gist, we've got a process where we design the websites with Connor, who's your brother. He gets approval for look and feel, which is always fun. But then after it looks good, it needs to function. So Merrick helps build all the sub pages. So other than the homepage, you got your individual service page. So for us, we've got True Mtn's homepage. Then we've got a web design page all about web design. We got web support page about support, and we might have an about page. Basically, Merrick's going through optimizing every single one of these pages before it goes live. So a lot of work, a lot of labor and love, and it takes the longest in our process, 2 to 3 weeks a site at least.
Right. It is a long process, and there's a lot that goes into it. Always learning, always improving. But I have to say it is what I like doing, and you guys do let me do what I like doing. So that is nice,
Yeah, the one thing I say about Merrick, he's like the head of True Mtn support. So like on top of him building pages, when anybody puts in a ticket, like I've even talked to you about this before. It's like a ticket pops up and you love just like knocking a ticket out. Like, what is like your perspective on that? I mean, our service is awesome, and I would like to say like you really had that a lot, and it's really just like speed on tickets. So like when a ticket pops in, like what's going through your head?
So as soon as I see a ticket pop in, I can usually automatically identify how quick I'm going to be able to solve this. Usually I already know what the problem is and where exactly to go and fix it. So just from all the experience, I've been working here for 4 years, coming on 5 years now. So, you see kind of the same issues or same requests pop up for each website. So I really have an understanding of, what goes into each change. So I do enjoy the support tickets and emailing them back as fast as I can. Sometimes they're surprised at how fast that we can be, but it's just because we have so much experience, even if the task is more complex.
Mm-hmm. I would say when you start getting those complex things, like, is it just for like a custom need, or is it like an issue with the site? What do you most commonly see when there is like a big issue?
I would say bigger issues, if someone decides they want to build a shop on their website out of nowhere, that's not going to be something that's a few minutes long. That's going to be, a more in-depth request. So depending on the request, it will take longer. new pages or in-depth stuff such as e-commerce is a common one.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, websites have complicated issues. There's plugins on websites. You have to make sure everything's operating smoothly together. So you do want to, sometimes the complex stuff, you have to do a little bit of digging.
Yeah. And that's like where we are kind of shifting towards working more with people in the service industry, because like working with really like heavy e-commerce websites, like whether they have 100 products or, 20,000, there is so much more support versus a service page. Our focus more is to get that website to rank.
Right.
And on e-commerce, it's like, we don't want this website to break,
Yeah, there's a whole different aspect when it comes to e-commerce, but we've been working with that for so long that it's usually not a problem. I cover all bases of e-commerce as well, but it can be more of a hassle.
When you're doing kind of like some of your development, like obviously we reference if they already have a website.
Right.
I guess for people that might be listening that are, more in the service industry, what would you say like you're improving upon the most, like when you're going through their site versus now you're developing it to make improvements? Like, is there some common things that you're like, wow, this is not there, like what it should be?
Yeah, a lot of times, the copy, the writing of the website, the content itself may be okay. But there's a lot of stuff on the back end that people don't see, whether their service pages have a schema markup, whether the H1 tags are set up correctly. There is some technical stuff that you want to make sure is correctly, and that's very important as well. When it comes to, especially service pages, you want these things on there, and it does take time for Google to rank your website. So those are some of the things I would say.
The one thing I always talk about is a lot of people like to build websites and they think they're set up to rank, and they're really just like sitting at the start line and the engine hasn't even turned on yet. Right. And like with the way that we have our development process, there's all these checklists to make sure we're doing everything the right way in order for the website to actually start ranking. So you kind of, you run the support, you're dropping terminology, we'll say, to maybe some of the listeners don't even understand it. And that's why we're like, hey, we're full service. All you have to do is fill out this onboarding form, and we have a team. Merrick's the head of it, we'll say, when it comes to support and everything like that. And just make sure that it's done right, so a website actually has the possibility of ranking.
Yeah, and doing it right the first time is key, because then you can build upon it rather than going back and trying to fix your mistakes, because Google's going to crawl your website and you want that to be good, set up correctly the first time.
Yeah, and that's exactly why when somebody comes to us with a website that hasn't really been built that well in the first place, and they're like, well, we don't want to do another website, can you just like fix what we already have? And we're trying to build something fresh, the right way to expand on it, versus like just going back to a website and just trying to find all the problems. What do you say? It's pretty much easier to build a new website the right way than
it's strongly recommended, because some of these sites, when we first started, we did a couple takeovers of people websites, and they're using crappy page builders. The website's slow as hell, and it's got a million plugins, and so you got to basically, it's easier just to build it from scratch most of the time than to try to optimize this website that's so poorly made in the first place.
Yeah, I always use a reference of like, sometimes it's better to just get the new car than keep dumping money into the old one.
Yeah.
Clients always connect with that one.
Or when people just want us to host the site and we're like, I don't even know how they made this site come to life. This site's so broken, like their old ones. We're like, well, might as well just remake it in our page builder. Like, it'll look the same, but at least we can help you.
Yeah. Or if we start hosting a website and then we're only doing hosting, and they're like, hey, can I make an update? And like, we're web guys. And then we go into this website that wasn't built by us, and we're like, wait, we don't even know how this was built.
Yeah, it's like some broken Divi theme or something, or like Visual Composer from 2008.
Yeah, Divi's a big one. If your website's built with Divi, hit us up. There's a very good chance that it's a mess back there. So sometimes logging into these websites is very shocking on the WordPress dashboard, what you see back there.
We like to like expand like almost on three things. It's like what all of our clients get. We pretty much host the website, we do the maintenance, we do the support. And aside from hosting, I think most people know what that is, but when it comes to actual maintenance of a website, updating plugins, do you want to like kind of touch base on that, like what you see on websites just based on maintenance?
Yeah, maintenance is, we keep our theme updated, we keep the plugins updated, which is standard stuff. And then we kind of just make sure everything's running smoothly because there can be an error at any time. So luckily we check the error logs frequently just to make sure everything's running smoothly. And yeah, I mean, it's basic stuff, make sure their website's ranking fine. Use just basic tools like Google Analytics and Search Console.
So I think where the big gap is like, for you, it's like basic stuff. And when we're talking to a client, we're like, we need to do maintenance on this. The best way I explain it is like every time iPhone comes out with a new update, like you have to update your phone. And with websites, there's a lot of moving parts on the back end. And for us, we're checking it every single day versus a business owner. They're out in the field doing what they do.
Yeah, I think for a business owner who's not, who may not be very technologically inclined, the maintenance part would be a big challenge because if we just built you your website and sent it over to you, stuff might break within a few months. And if you don't know how to fix it, basically keep it maintained, then it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and that's all just maintenance of keeping the website up. That's not making changes, changing photos, changing text. This is just about the back end of the website, just keeping it tuned, we'll say.
Yeah. And I will say, like, we do offer, some clients are creative and they like doing changes themselves, and we try to make that as easy as possible for them. A lot of times the more difficult things they're going to need our assistance with, and we're happy to just take care of everything for them. But that is an option too, which I think is pretty cool.
Which is why we back it up every day. So if we know they're going to break it, or vice versa, we do daily backups with our system, which we can go back a whole year if we need to. So that, for instance, a plugin in the WordPress system had a issue with PHP injection, or like basically a virus, we could always back up 14 days to where that issue started, pull up the clean version and fix it. And that's one of the things that is part of that maintenance. It's like if we know there's an issue, we'll backtrack it to before the issue was there and still bring that data back. Or if we know the client got in there to do their own changes and absolutely demolish the website, which happens probably weekly, we can always just restore it. So those are my favorite support tickets to get, was, I broke the website. And we're like,
yeah, we keep a lot of backups, which is very, very key.
The oh crap, I need help email. It comes through.
Yeah.
Yeah. John, do you want to touch base on just like uptime and things like that? I know like the big thing with having a website, you always want it up. So if somebody's searching you on Google and maybe they came across your website and it might not be up, that might be like a lack of maintenance, we'll say. So can you like touch base on that? Because I'm pretty sure we have good numbers on that.
Yeah, so we have two systems. Part of our maintenance is our system does backups daily. It does a daily check for any malware or any basically viruses. And then it also allows us to push updates of plugins and themes and everything on there. And then also it does a uptime check every 5 minutes on the website itself. So if there's like a 404 with the server down, or maybe you didn't renew your domain, we get an email during the day letting us know, hey, that website's down. And then we can address it. So it's kind of like a flag. But on top of that, when we use another service, which checks the website every 30 seconds. So we have two uptime monitors just kind of checking in every once in a while. Sometimes there's false flags every 30 seconds, like it might just load too slow with like an issue on how often it's checking. But generally the secondary one, if that one's like, hey, the site's down, we're like, what's going on? So then we can check it, see if there was like an error that happened. 95% of the time, it's mostly the domain expired. So we don't own the domains, and we never should. Everybody's showing their own domains. It's like kind of having the land. We just put the house on top of it. You can always blow the house to the ground if you don't like it. But you still own the land. So the domain if people aren't updating it, and they always forget, and they're like, I didn't know, what's my registrar? I'm like, GoDaddy, HostGator, Cloudflare, wherever you bought it. It's one of those most likely. And it's like $12. I'm like, you can't forget. It's $1 a month. Please don't forget. And that's like the worst one. But luckily it's an easy fix. Once they renew it, it comes up pretty fast. But we have systems that check it. Helps us at least address the issues sooner than later. I wouldn't say it's like a foolproof plan, but no, if you're not doing that already, then I mean, you could have a site that's down for 2 weeks, and if nobody's looking, who knows? At least with this, we can address it as soon as we can, which is, I think, really good. And then with Merrick having access to the servers, because we host everything, we can see the error logs and then get basically things fixed sooner. A lot of people always ask like, oh, I want to host my website. I'm always like, well, do you even know how to optimize the server for WordPress, or do you know what to do if there's an issue? And if there is an issue, we need access to it regardless, because that's the only way we can see the server error log. That being said, we still give people access to the server. I'm like, you can go on there if you want to. I don't know why you would.
Right.
It's rare, I think.
I think even going back to like episode 1, where I kind of talk about how I'm the bridge talking to the business owner, find out what the problems are, and then we build the website and kind of hand it off to the team. There's like so much tech stuff going on in the background that's like way over, a business owner's head. And that's why it's like so much easier to just, work with us and not have to worry about this complex stuff. So like, even in terms of like a domain name. So a domain name is when you type your website name in Google, it's the whatever your business name is .com. That's your domain name. And then like hosting is pretty much required on every website that you've ever been to. And I kind of say like your website is the car, and then hosting is like paying for an iPass or tolls, like to be on the highway. And there's simple like terminology to make it easier for people to understand, but sometimes, it's hard for a business owner to grasp all this.
Yeah, I think it can be pretty difficult because there's just so many things. I mean, the domain is just kind of the hub. Domain does so much once you start getting to the DNS and more technical side, which we don't do too much of. I mean, we understand it, but it's more of like an IT side of things. But the domain can point to email systems like G Suite or Office 365. It can point to our servers, which is the core. And then you can also set up subdomains, which point to totally different servers. Like you can make up, we'll just say brandnew.truemountain.com, and you can be building a site totally separate from the main domain, totally different hosting. The domain is like where it's sending everybody though. So we try to make it as simple as possible. We just do the main stuff. We don't mess with all that other nonsense.
Yeah,
usually.
I do think that's a good point. A lot of people don't understand the difference between the domain and the hosting, and why they have to be paying for both. And I think it's important that the clients do own their own domain as well.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. It's like we talk with a lot of businesses that want to move their website to us, and the one issue we come across not often is when the marketing company owns the domain name. So
Right.
They're pretty much held hostage because their web address is owned by another company. When it comes to hosting, if you own your domain, you can just, update the DNS, do whatever you need to do, and you could change your website really easy if you have access to that domain. But if you don't own your domain, it's just like such a liability to the business owner. And that's why we're like, we cover everything. We'll build the website for you. We'll help you with the copy. We'll do the layout. We cover everything: hosting, maintenance, support. But the only thing we don't cover is your domain name. You need to own that,
And emails.
And emails.
That's a huge red flag. If you have a website and you don't own your own domain, that's a huge red flag. So you should get on that.
Yeah. And one of the other things I was even thinking we could dive into, I thought was cool. One of the things we do on every site is we install analytics, like we kind of talked about earlier. So
Yes.
we always install a fresh Google Analytics tag, unless somebody gives us access to their old one, but we usually set it up. A lot of people don't realize the power of like the free Google Analytics. And I know lately we've been getting some ticket requests. People don't know, and now they're kind of learning, you can automate reports to yourself.
Yes.
Do you want to kind of talk to how easy it is to set up and what you can do with those reports on analytics?
Yeah, I mean, Google Analytics, just the basic version is mostly all you need for just the average, service website. Analytics will cover everything from, a little bit of demographics to what page users are landing on, how many page views you're getting, just in general, how much traffic is coming to the website. So it's very useful. And, reports are just a click of a button. You can send that information to anyone you want, at 1 month intervals, weekly. So you can kind of keep track of it in case you don't want to log in yourself and look at the analytics.
Yeah, so Google Analytics, Google Analytics has a great feature now, and people don't realize it, where you can enable automated reports to your email or 5 people's emails. You can set it to your whole team. It's up to you, and it's built into their system with default templates. So you can go in there, set a report for the last 30 days, we'll say, and it sends on the first of every single month to whatever email you want it to go to. And it's a really cool feature that we used to have to pay for in the past through other programs, but now everybody has access to it. So if you ever want to know how your website's doing, you can obviously use the app with Google Analytics, which is free and easy. But if you always want to send something to your team to be like, hey, here's where we were last month, you can automate that, which I think is cool. And if any clients are listening, you need help with that, you know how to get a hold of Merrick or the support team, and they can set up the report for you. But maybe we should make like a video about it one day, kind of walking through it. It's pretty cool.
That'd be a good idea. I mean, it's something that a lot of our clients probably don't utilize as much as they could.
Mm-hmm.
Is, just analytics in general and the information you can gain for that, as well as Google Search Console. And for anyone that's not listening, Google Search Console, that'll tell you what people are actually typing into Google to access your website.
Yep, and those are two separate things. So you've got analytics, which we install, which is how people are interacting physically with your website. What page are they on? What are they doing on the page? How long were they there? And then Google Search Console is a tool from Google, which we sync the domain into. And then what it does is it tells us how your website's functioning on the search engine. So it'll tell you, here's the 8 pages that are ranking of maybe 10. They don't always rank. And here's what people were typing in to get those pages to show up. So you can kind of see how you're organically growing the website. It'll tell you impressions and clicks. So impressions are, you just showed up at some point and people could see it. And clicks are as straightforward as that word gets. They clicked it. We use it a lot. One, it can let us know if there's SEO errors that might be happening on an organic side, or 2, just to make sure everything's slowly gaining over time, because we do a lot of those sub-service pages and the city service pages, which you've been doing a lot of help with as well, which are huge and very important for that foundation right now. You want to talk about maybe some of those city service pages? I think they're cool.
Yeah, city service pages, we do those to kind of help grow people's Google footprint and just boost their site's SEO. And yeah, they basically just cater to specific areas. So a lot of times when you're trying to rank on Google, it's hard to rank, nationwide for something super general. So a lot of times you'll want to cater to a specific city. So, for example, if you're a roofing contractor, you want a page dedicated towards roofing in, for example, St. John, Indiana. If you want to target that city, if you just do roofing contractor as a general keyword, that's going to be really hard to rank for because there's thousands and thousands of them throughout the entire US.
Yeah, and you can set it up, which you do during development. So you build, generally, there's a few ways to do it. It changes often, where you set up your first service page, we'll say roofing, and then you'll set up your sub page under there as St. John, Indiana. So on your URL, it looks like johnsservice.com/roofing/St. John, Indiana. So what it's doing is it's going even deeper for Google, so they know these keywords are in the URL, that it's in the copy, it's all optimized for that specific location. And as long as you're doing it in a healthy way, it's really, really good. But we only do, I think, like 10 to 15 at most, because if you do too many, Google's like, you guys are just spamming this, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to, have too much duplicate stuff. But if you do offer a service in multiple different towns, it's good to target as many of those as you can.
Yeah, and I think the biggest difference about this is we're talking about your website coming up for a specific service in a specific area. And like most of the time, contractors want to lean right towards the route of running ads to come up in a certain town for a service. And what we're doing is essentially making sure your website is organically coming up for this stuff. So this is just like having the knowledge of how to build the website the right way to communicate with Google so you come up without having to be a slave to Google Ads. Because if you run Google Ads for 1 month, you get some leads. If you don't have that same budget the next month, raise the budget, whatever it may be, you might be spending, $1,000, $5,000 a month just to get this, just to come up on Google. But the way that we're developing the websites is you're going to grow organically, and it's kind of hard to lose your organic. And if you can keep maintaining it, stay active on your website, you're just going to start to outrank all your competitors without having to do it with a huge budget.
Yeah, and one thing is with that, we just want to help build that foundation. We do see a lot though after kind of launching. You do all this development. We look at Search Console. Most of the time, after over the course of like 2-3 months, we can see the impressions go up, and then it kind of plateaus. I don't ever see many people utilize like different things to grow their organic SEO. When people ask, like, I guess, what are your few, like, hey, this is what you should be doing after we've given it to you to help grow that? Do you have any like go-tos?
I would say like, people need to do a little bit of, we call it like keyword research, which is basically you want to find like a term that's not too broad, and that's somewhat niche to where not that many people are typing it in. And that can be helpful, to build a page upon that term and then kind of pop up, because, if too many people if it's a very common keyword, then it's going to be more difficult to rank for. And then you might have to resort to something like ads, which is not always a bad option for some people.
Yeah, and we integrate the default WordPress blog system with the Gutenberg. So everybody has that ability to blog. And one thing I've always done that's easy to blog is just answer questions. So, a lot of people are searching things, and if you can make it even more localized, even better. So, for example, if you're a roofer, you could be answering how to fix roof damage in Austin, Texas after a hurricane. And
Right.
You're niching into this little location of content, and you're answering the specific question, where now people are in Austin, big city, they're getting hit by a big storm, they're looking at roof damage, what to look for, or how to fix it. And then your article's there. So you're just providing this value, which Google likes to see. And that's outside of like the pages we've already built. So you've already optimized the service page with call to actions, forms, cool stuff like that. But I think people need to understand like giving value after is huge for growing that SEO.
Yeah, we encourage everyone to be blogging. Blogging is super important as well if you want to grow, on Google or any search engine. So blogging is another big one. And then in that blog, you can have links to your actual service pages. Everything links together. And that's also very helpful in general.
Yeah, and blogging doesn't have to be hard. It can be.
Yeah.
We're using, I know you with building 20, 30 pages a week, we're using AI, doing it the right way though. You want to talk about how like you can build copy in a good way for SEO in mind with either ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever people are using? Because I know you're using it.
Yeah.
I make you.
Yeah. Google says if you look on their policies, they say, AI in written content there's nothing wrong with it as long as it's actually unique and good content. So there are certain prompts. We don't want to give away too much, but there are certain prompts, and we can, tell our clients that as well, that can generate content that's actually useful and information based and not just a bunch of bullshit just over and over,
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Like a lot of people just want to put in 2 sentences on in AI and have them write a blog versus, giving AI all the details, everything, from top to bottom, like
Right.
what material you used, what service it was, you can write a really detailed blog. But another thing I like to touch base on too is like with these blogs, if you have a portion of your websites for frequently asked questions, you can write a whole blog that's informative just on one of these commonly asked questions. So if one of your like potential clients reaches out, it's always a frequently asked question. Instead of them just seeing the question in a short blurb, you can do a whole blog that goes in depth, in detail, which helps a lot of people in the sales process. And it also helps the website rank at the same time. So if there's like a really large or common issue or a common question, you can just write a blog about it. And then when that question comes up, you're like, hey, check out this blog. And then they're going to sit on your website and read it for, a couple minutes. That helps with your ranking.
Exactly. User retention is big. AI is a very valuable tool. So it's a tool, but you have to know how to use it responsibly. Don't be lazy with it. And then it can really help pay off,
Yep. And we were just talking a little bit earlier, like things you can do after your website is launched. A lot of the things like I recommend to our clients is if you're at a job site, a lot of our clients are big on social media. They like Instagram, they like Facebook, but that really doesn't like help them much with their website ranking. So I'm like, hey, go open up a support ticket at TrueMtnSupport.com, drop photos of the project, give us details about it, what service you did, where it was at, all that. And then we'll essentially like publish a blog or a project highlight. And then the website is improving. And they could even share the blog from the website to their like LinkedIn or Facebook. So instead of having like a Facebook post where somebody just clicks through the photos, they click the link directly to the blog, and then you're getting more traffic from social to your website.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That's something that, we didn't touch on, but like if you're a project-based service, like if you're, deck builder, pool builder, highlight those projects, take some photos, even if it's just with your phone, and you want to put them on social media too, link to the website. And then, yeah, like you said, it basically acts like a blog on the website where you basically make an archive of your projects, and they have the name of the town in them, that you're doing the project in, as well as stuff like the materials, the type of project, stuff that people actually are typing into search engines to help pop up. And it's, it's your project, it's real stuff. So it's another great way. It's essentially a blog, but over your projects that you're actually building yourself.
Yeah, and you can get hyper focused as well. So a good example is Northwest Indiana. That's a general region. Now let's get deeper. Let's go to St. John, Indiana. All right, cool. I'm building pools in Northwest Indiana and St. John. Now we can get even hyper focused. And if you really want to target communities, you could be like, this is a project highlight of a new pool in the preserve in St. John, Indiana. So now you're hitting people that live in this very specific community that are already in that town, and then you hit the region and the state kind of as well. So you're just triple dipping, and all you're doing is sharing a project, and it's so easy. But you're going to be doing 3 more things more than all your competitors, which helps you out that much more. Because if I'm living in the preserve, I'm typing in pool builder in preserve or pool builder near me, and it's already going to know that they're the closest one. So it'll show them that gallery or blog highlight, whatever you want to call it, and just gets you that extra boost. Because people think they're like, doing all this work, I'm only getting 100 impressions a month, so in 1 click. I'm like, that's great, but that's 1 click for free, and that person might have reached out, bought a pool. There's a $100,000 job just because you put it out there. Because you're hyper targeting, so your numbers are smaller, but you have better numbers essentially.
Right, and that kind of touches on what I was saying with like niche stuff, as far as like even location, like John said, specific neighborhoods, and that'll help you grow in Indiana in general, for example. Because if you're popping up for specific neighborhoods, then, that also ties in with Indiana and the greater Northwest Indiana area, just for an example.
Yeah, I think this is a great leeway to our last podcast. We talked about a specific client meeting that we had earlier that day, and they do awesome metal work, like the coolest stuff. They do work at the Shed Aquarium. They build the most incredible metal staircases in very well-known places. And, for them, it's not even about running ads. If they just publish an article saying, hey, this is the metal work that we did at the Shed Aquarium, and said all this stuff, and then maybe somebody in Chicago saw that work and they wanted it for their building, and they typed in who did the metal work at the Shed Aquarium on the outside. His website, the page that we built for that, would essentially come up, talk about it, and then he would be found. And this is all just organic growth based on sharing projects. And, if somebody's paying $3.99 a month for an organic website sharing their projects. It's a very slim marketing budget that can really land him maybe another 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 plus job. And, he's
Right.
just doing it organically.
Yeah, and the hardest part with it, obviously, we get from people is I just don't have the time. That's all they always say. So, look, and the thing is, we can't always do that for people, and that's why we are just like, send us the pictures, take them with your phone, put it on wide, send us what you got. Just tell us the sloppy copy, the 3-4 sentences about what the job is, where it's at, some super simple details so we don't misspeak on it. We're like, 100-yard wide pool, and they're like, oh, what? Just give us the important stuff. We'll write it and put it up there for you if you can't get to it. We just need a little bit of help from some people. So that's always the thing I see after we go live. People just they just kind of leave it, and it's always kind of tough because you got to keep working the site if you want it to grow over time. We can only do so much at the foundation, and we do try. Some people are doing it, and the guys that are just killing it.
Yeah,
and I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to spoil the names of them because I don't want people to go on their sites and start stealing all their articles.
Yeah.
Maybe if they come on the show, they can give out their juju and talk about it some more. But so let's go when you're developing sites, because obviously that's kind of your focus right now outside of support. When you're doing a service page, like, what would you say is like your average flow for a layout? Like, if you're explaining, because they're pretty common. They're not templates,
Right.
but there is like a flow that's common that you could like recommend. What would that look like?
Yeah, there's a certain amount of things that you do want in there, but you also can change it up and make it completely unique depending on what it is. But I would say, you're going to want a header section that's going to want to feature the service and possibly an area. If you're specific to an area, you're going to want that. First thing on the page is going to be, your heading. And then, basically just explaining the service, a couple sections about that, maybe have some specific keywords in there that are useful for you to use. And then you can include stuff like specific projects to that page as well. Going back to kind of that project archive that we were talking about, you can tie in blogs as well. So all their pages are linking together, and that stuff's super important. And then, if there's a FAQ specific to that page, frequently asked questions specific to that service, you can have that listed as well. Maybe a little gallery, some reviews. Ideally, those reviews will be specific to the service as well. And all that stuff is super helpful. We'll embed your reviews right from Google. So you can encourage your clients to get, reviews right from Google, and that's also very helpful. So I would say that's kind of like just some of the general sections that.
There's one you missed.
Yeah.
The process.
Yeah, the process as well. And then, plenty of call to action so that the user doesn't have to scroll far or look for where to contact you. It should be obvious, right anywhere on the page.
We're just ripping Merrick on the spot right now. Right now, we're just testing how the 3 cameras work, on a podcast. And like when Merrick's building websites, he's doing great on this podcast. We literally just asked him to come here. We want to set up another camera. He's like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
And, like Merrick's building websites. He has like checklists that he doesn't miss.
Yeah, I do have actual documents.
We're putting you right on the spot. That's awesome.
Yeah, I do have actual, document checklisted. So whatever I'm riffing now, I'm sure I'm missing stuff. But yeah, I do have actual checklists written down to make sure we cover up.
You are crushing it, Merrick. Like you're doing good on the pod. It's great.
Yeah, it's fun.
We don't have any plan. I don't think that we ever do or ever will. So we don't even know what we're going to talk about next. I could just end the podcast right now. I still might. This could be it.
Well, I've been thinking this idea for like the episode, like the 0.5 episodes, maybe somebody with the team where it's more, tech focused versus like the whole numbers.
Yeah.
Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is more, I don't know.
I see.
Yeah, because then we can get real deep and be like, all right, we're going to do Bricks Builder now. And then I'm going to be like, for FAQs, we're going to make custom post types. And then it'll have an excerpt. And that'll go on the FAQ page that has read more now. And then those are full blogs. That's how deep we should get.
There's going to be people that want to follow the 0.5 episodes. And there's going to be people that want to follow the whole number episode. It's pretty awesome. I love it.
And we should get Raul on for the super deep ones.
Yeah.
Raul's just going to mind dump JavaScript and CSS on them, and we're just like,
we have some really brilliant guys on the team. My brother, I'm fortunate enough to work with him. He's and him and our good friend Raul as well. He's super brilliant as well. So it'll be good to get into the technical aspects for some of these podcasts. I think would be cool, and then just some more general fun too.
Yeah,
can't go wrong.
Especially when it comes to fun. I always like to say is like our team is awesome. Our support team's good. Like they're great. I love to say that we're the best. And, we've been building websites for people in Moab, Utah. And they, those clients out there, they love Merrick. They're like, every time I call them, they're just, hyping up the support. We got clients in Arizona. They're all hyping up the support. Like everybody loves Merrick, the True Mountain clients. They're all about it. A lot of our Google reviews on our page is like, Merrick has the best support. Merrick has the best support. And I tell them, I'm like, these guys love doing tickets. They love updating the website.
Yeah.
We're not going to charge you money if you want to make a change. Because like some websites, companies will charge every time there's a request. And then 6 months goes by and your website's totally outdated because you were just scared to reach out. So like nobody's scared to reach out because we do a great job at getting the job done and making clients feel comfortable on actually requesting changes. But I'm like, yep, our team loves to make changes, doing the websites, but also they like to go have adventures. So like these Moab people, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, Merrick, he's awesome. I'm like, in his free time, he loves to go to national parks with his friends. He loves to do his thing. And yeah, the clients love that.
Yeah, and he already does the changes usually within the day. But if you want it within the hour, then his email. Just send him tickets to a flight and get him out for some fun.
Yeah. Stop giving Merrick website tickets and get him some plane tickets.
Yeah.
He wants to fly Merrick out.
Yeah, I can be bribed as well with national park. No, I'm kidding.
I need to do in-person changes on this website.
Yeah.
Moab.
Shoot, that's funny. Well, I think that's going to cover it for today. Hopefully this works. If you're listening to it, it did. If you're not listening to it, you'll never know anyways. So thanks again for tuning in for another episode of Brand Altitude. I almost said awareness. I was like, brand awareness. No, Brand Altitude 1.5. So shout out to Merrick Westerfield for joining on. And of course, the co-host, John O'Gross, who is in town for this. We're going to try and do this every month. Might have somebody in next week for version 2 with a client, which I think will be really fun. If you like it, follow the Spotify. I almost said Shopify again. Follow the Spotify and like it on YouTube and follow us on Instagram, Facebook. What else? Pow the like,
subscribe, share. Any support's good. Like I said, we're at 190. We're at 200 views on our first one, and 200 people is actually a lot. So we appreciate everybody's support and following along. You got any feedback, things you want us to discuss specifically? Just comment on whatever post. We're monitoring all of our social pages.
Cool. That's it. Peace.